What types of apps should founders be building right now? That's a question we've been getting a lot lately. With everything going on in the world, a lot of founders, at least a lot of our founders, are looking for ways to create opportunities for themselves. Even in a time of uncertainty, they're looking for ways to use their time productively and to create something that could be a long term asset for themselves. And they're turning to apps because of the massive increase in demand for apps right now, right? The increase in demand for apps has been growing in the past, 3, 5, 10 years, but now it has spiked. There's a much larger demand because the world is turning to apps right now, and a lot of founders are not only catching on to this, but they're looking for ways to create opportunities for themselves within this space too. So what apps should be built right now? As a founder, what type of app should you be building right now? That's what we're going to talk about today. My name is Kristen. I'm the co-founder at Coaching No Code Apps, and we help business owners and industry experts build custom apps to start their app-based business or grow and scale their existing business. So let's dive right in. What I'm going to do is share my screen so that we can go through this a little bit more visually, because there's a lot that I want to cover today. So there are really three things that businesses or consumers are doing right now, three ways in which they are reacting to the current situation in the world right now. So number one, let's see, number one, they are looking to fix immediate problems. Okay, so there are obviously a lot of problems being uncovered in the world right now. So number one, some people and businesses are looking for ways to fix those problems. If they have been impacted by a specific problem, they are in fix or repair mode. Okay, so number two, others are looking to maintain, right, their, what we're going to say is normalcy. Okay, but really that kind of boils down to their day-to-day, and this can vary depending on the person or the business, but in other words, they might be looking for ways to maintain their lifestyle, looking for ways to maintain their operations, maybe maintain their income or their revenue, right? So maybe they haven't been impacted in a way that has put them in fix or repair mode, where they're facing kind of like a make it or break it problem, but they're more so in maintenance mode. They're just trying to stay afloat with everything going on around them. So that would be the sort of maintain reaction. And then there's a third, which is growth and scale. Now that might sound a little bit unusual right now with all the different challenges people and businesses are facing around the world, but the reality is that some people and some businesses have been put in situations where they can create opportunities or pursue opportunities for themselves. Certain markets right now are absolutely booming, they're skyrocketing just because of everything that's going on, right? So some people, some businesses, some markets are in a growth and scale mindset because of everything that's going on. So three different reactions with both consumers and businesses. One, they're fixing immediate problems. They're in the fix and repair mode. Two, maintenance mode, right? They're trying to continue, stay afloat, keep pushing for some sense of normalcy until we get to the other side of all of this. And then three, growth and scale, right? They're reacting by taking advantage of situations that they are put in and trying to grow. Maybe they're able to grow their apps more quickly because of all the demand, right? It's not a negative thing. It's just the reality that some businesses, some consumers are able to do that right now. So when we're answering the question of what types of apps should you be building right now, These are the three areas you first need to understand, because your app is a solution to a problem, right? We're not coming up with random app ideas. We are solving problems with our apps. So your app, whatever app you build, has to solve a problem. And right now, for it to be highly relevant, the problem is likely going to fall in one of these three areas. So let's kind of dissect these a little bit and talk about what they mean. Okay, so like I said, this applies to both consumers and businesses. So I want to give a couple examples of how these stages might apply to each of those. So with the fix and repair stage, let's talk about consumers. How is this affecting them? Or what's a good example of this? So a consumer in the fix and repair stage, and I'm just talking about the general public, they might be looking for ways to get groceries, right? Let's say they cannot go into the grocery store. They are isolated at home, they can't go out, or they're unwilling to go out. They need to feed themselves, right? This is fixing an immediate problem. Well, what are they going to do? They're going to look for a solution to that. So what's in high demand right now? Well, delivery apps for one, right? Now, I'm not saying you should go and create a delivery app. This is just an example of an immediate problem that consumers might be facing. Consumers, the general public, are facing tons of different problems right now. This is just an example of one that needs immediate fixing. Okay, so let's just say the example for this one is groceries. Okay, just a really basic example. And then we have businesses. Okay, so businesses in this fix or repair stage, what's an example of a problem they might be facing? Well, let's say the most obvious one is physical businesses. Lots and lots of physical businesses are having to completely shut their doors right now. So an immediate problem they are trying to solve is going into a digital space, or expanding into a digital space, or just trying to continue operating even when their doors have to be closed. So an example of this is gyms. Okay, so we have a client who was already building an app to help gyms expand with an app, expand into the digital space with their members before all of this happened. But now his app is fixing an immediate problem because gyms are having to close their doors. They're having to shut down. So that would be a really good example of this. So apps that help physical businesses not maintain, but just continue operating at all, or prevent them from shutting down. So we're going to say our example here is gyms, but you've seen this happening all around you. You can think of tons of different examples of businesses needing to fix immediate problems. Think about the restaurant industry. Think about how many businesses are having to lay off employees right now, who are having to shut their doors. There are lots of immediate problems they're having to fix right now. Okay, let's talk about the maintenance stage, and where some examples of where consumers and businesses might be in this stage right now. So for consumers who are in the maintenance stage, well, this you might have experienced this too. In the maintenance stage, people are really trying to continue with some sense of normalcy, trying to maintain their lives, or with businesses, maintain operations, push forward even with everything going on around us. Well, from a consumer or a general public standpoint, people are trying to still see their friends and see their families, or they are trying to celebrate holidays together, celebrate birthdays when they can't physically be in the same space. So what is a solution to that problem? Well, things like Google Hangouts and Skype. those, if you've read in the news, those apps are, their demand and their use has just skyrocketed because of everything that's going on. That is a way in which people are maintaining some sense of normalcy in their lives. A problem revealed itself because of the coronavirus, because of social distancing. People found a solution to maintain some sense of normalcy. So what about businesses? So with businesses, this is really similar. So for businesses, maybe they are not being forced to shut down, but they still need to operate in some way. Well, an obvious sort of solution that they have seen, or that many of them have seen, is the ability to work remotely, right? The ability for their employees to work remotely. And this, goes back to the Hangouts and the Skype or the Zoom, or think about universities or schools having online classes, right? So let's just say remote work, because it lets them maintain some sense of normalcy. And again, we're going through some very specific examples, but this does not mean that the app you build has to relate to these exact things. These are just general examples we're coming up with as we go to show you how many problems have presented themselves in the world because of everything that's going on, and how many different ways they can be solved, both from a general public or consumer standpoint and from a business standpoint. So what about the growth and scale side of things? Well, for consumers, right, a good example would be people looking to use their time while quarantined, while stuck at home, to create new skill sets, or learn something new. So people who are taking courses, investing in courses, or who are maybe building their apps, right? They are looking for opportunities to create assets for themselves when they are at home, when they are able to really focus in on, on building this skill set, on building this app, even if they have other distractions around them, which I know a lot of you do, all of us do, but they're looking for ways to grow. And that's a really great example. So what we're going to put here, get my pen right, is building, oh gosh, there we go, building or learning. Okay, and again, this is just one example out of many. So what about businesses? What are they doing in the growth and scale end of this? Well, a lot of them right now are adding on apps to their revenue streams. Or if they already had an app, they are maybe leaning on it a little bit more. And there are countless examples of ways in which this is happening right now. You are hearing about so many businesses, unfortunately, having to shut their doors, which of course we don't want to hear about, but you're not hearing about as much, at least, all of the businesses that are getting really innovative and adaptive in the ways in which they are not only maintaining, but also growing and scaling. So businesses who are adopting apps, lots of restaurants are doing this. Lots of restaurants are actually increasing their customer capacity because they're using apps. Think about a restaurant that might seat 20 people or 20 tables on a normal evening, who instead of bringing people into their restaurant is now operating via an app where they can operate a pickup service where people can drive up in their cars, pick up the meal they've ordered. Well, they're not limited to the number of tables they have, are they? No, people can just drive through and pick up their order. And so they're now actually, many of them are serving more people than they otherwise could. They're growing and scaling during this time because they adapted quickly and started using an app to do so. Other businesses are doing the same. Businesses that are that very much revolve around physical spaces or physical presence. Teachers or tutors, or I was listening to a podcast the other day about someone who runs a a school that gives music lessons, and their instructors go out to their clients' homes and they teach them in their homes, which they obviously can't do right now. Well, they quickly adapted and switched over to an app, and they, in the process, lost, I think, maybe 40 total customers out of their, I think they had 900 total customers. So that little blip was very small to them, given the fact that they transitioned literally their entire business from being a physical operating business only to being digital only, right? In the process of switching to that and adapting really quickly, they barely saw a change. So let's say they are turning to apps, and I know that's more of a general example, but there are just so many that the list is really endless. Now, there's another thing I want to talk about though. So again, going back to the main question, which app should you be building right now? Well, as we've gone through this, you should start having some ideas. Now, maybe the app idea you already had, or the solution you were already planning to build, or are currently building, already falls into one of these, and you can sort of start to identify how that might happen. Or maybe the app you are brainstorming on right now, the solution you're thinking of, you can start to place it into one of these. Who does it apply to? What stage does it apply to? Okay, now there's another important thing you need to understand about this. And I'm just going to move this up a little bit. And that is that just because your solution, and when I say solution, I'm talking about your app, but I want you to really focus on it being a solution and not an idea. So understand that just because your solution might fall into one of these three categories right now, okay, so the fix or repair, the maintenance, or the growth and scale, okay, just because your solution falls into one of these categories right now during the coronavirus, during all the challenges we're facing, doesn't mean that it has to fall into one of those categories from here on out in the long run, after the coronavirus, after markets start to pick back up. Okay, so this is actually a spectrum, right? So you have the fix and repair stage right over here, or the end of the spectrum. You have the maintenance right here, and you have the grow and scale end over here. So think of it like this. Think of it like a spectrum, okay? Your app idea, it might right now during the coronavirus fall on this end of the spectrum, or it could even fall on this end of the spectrum. But after the coronavirus, it could fall on this end of the spectrum, or it could go from fix and repair to maintenance, okay? Your solution can evolve with the stage that businesses or consumers are in, depending on what's happening in the world. So what does that mean? Well, let me give you an example. So we have a client in our private program who is building an app, and it's an app that he was building for his own businesses and for other businesses like his down the road. He was already building it before coronavirus hit, okay? But because of everything that's going on in the world, he found that his beta users were needing certain features right away. They were needing features that would allow them to communicate with all of their customers on sort of a widespread basis, because his app is being used in physical businesses who have customers who come into them. And so those businesses were needing an easy and simple way to communicate to their customers how they were going to be operating, if they were going to be closing, when they were going to be opening, how they would be able to sort of continue their business. So he went in and created that feature right away because those users, his users, were right up here in the fix and repair stage, right? They're on this end of the spectrum because of specific and immediate challenges they're facing. But after the coronavirus, after they're able to open back up and resume business, they are no longer going to be in that fix or repair stage. They're going to come over to this growth and scale stage. So that feature that he built to help them fix and repair, to help them communicate widespread with their customer bases, well, when those businesses or when his users get to the growth and scale end of the spectrum, they're going to use that same feature to help with their marketing, right? To reach out to their customers and help run promotions, to help continue communication, to continue that connection, which is so important, right? It's important in growing your user base and growing your customer base, and they know that. And so you can see how it's the exact same feature. And I'm talking about a feature here, but this applies to apps in general, entire apps. Your solution, whether it's a feature or a full app, can fall in one of these stages now, and then it can be adapted to fall into a different stage later on, just like this client's feature, right? Fixing and repairing, or helping businesses fix and repair their immediate problem by communicating with their customers. Later on, it's going to flip to growth and scale by helping them market with their customers. He's not going to have to change that feature. It's just going to be applicable in different ways for his users. So let's recap. Which apps should you be building right now? What types of apps should you be building? Well, first, think of the 3 stages businesses and consumers are in right now. Where do they fall on the spectrum? Are they fixing or repairing immediate problems? Are they looking to maintain some sense of normalcy, right? Are they looking to stay above water and continue until this passes? Or are they looking for growth and scale? Because there are consumers and businesses in all of these stages right now, or somewhere in between if you think of it like a spectrum. We already went through some examples of what each of these would look like for different types of markets. And we talked about how even if your solution applies to a specific category or falls on a specific part of the spectrum right now, it can change later without you actually having to change your app or change a feature. It just needs to be adapted for a different use case. So we're not going into, the literal specific types of apps because the list is absolutely endless. It could go on and on and on, and there is really no wrong answer right now. We have founders who are building apps right now for industries that are completely shut down because of the coronavirus, but they know that, while those industries fall very much on this end of the spectrum over here, once the coronavirus passes, once we're able to, return and go out again, and all the social distancing is able to lighten up, well, those businesses are going to look to really not only open back up, but sort of pick back up and push forward even harder to make up for everything, to prevent this from happening again in the future. Obviously not the virus, but things happen, right? There are recessions, things happen. So they're going to look for ways to prevent problems in the future. They're looking for solutions. Those solutions are coming in the form of apps, and they will continue to do so. So there is no one specific type of app you should be building right now. What you should be focusing on is solving a problem, and start by looking at these 3 areas. Start by looking on all ends of the spectrum. Find out where your market is on that spectrum. Find a way to create a solution that is relevant to where they are on that spectrum and that can potentially be adapted when they move on the spectrum. Your app, your solution can move with them. All right, I hope that's helpful for you as you flesh out your app, as you kind of put together your solution. Remember to focus, like I said, on the solution. Think of the problem and focus on the solution versus just the idea. And it's going to be applicable in so many different areas. And this is just a starting point for you. All right, thanks for watching. I hope that was helpful, and we'll talk soon.